Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sonoma Speed Tour with the Toyo Tires 2.5 Challenge B Sedan Race with SVRA. We have a huge field, 25 B sedans set up to the rules of the Trans Am series back in the 70s with their B sedan 2.5 or under liter cars. We have some absolutely fantastic cars, as you can see here, coming around Mission Foods Turn 10. But we are going to go right to the start of the race, and here they come. Luke Oxner and Armin Gorbani go at it. Armin looks like he's got the inside line going up to the Cube 3 turn. That's Armin in the black Datsun 510. Luke Oxner in the yellow 99A. Followed by David Anderson, Tim Probert, and then we've got the two BMWs of Brian O'Shaughnessy and Tony Delane. Now they go up through the Bennett Bridge Hall, turn 3 here at Sonoma Raceway. You see there's Steve Walker in his beautiful car. This is Steve Link in an actual Trans Am historic B sedan. This car actually raced in the Trans Am series in the 70s, and now we're on board with Brian O'Shaughnessy coming up right beside Tim Probert. Tim Probert and Penny right beside. I'm not exaggerating there. That is not the place you want to be side by side there in that carousel. You can see Brian really fighting the wheel on his BMW 2002. Tim Probert right behind him, and now we're on board with Tony Delane right behind them. They go 3 wide into turn 7 here at Sonoma, not suggested, and it looks like Tim Probert is able to take that place back as they come down this slightly downhill section from turn 7 all the way to 11. I love Sonoma. Sonoma is a great venue for these B sedans. There isn't a traditional speedway or straightaway like we know it at other tracks here at Sonoma. No time to rest, and it is really cool to see these cars and the way that they're set up. On board right now with David Anderson. 1969 Datsun 510. And right behind David Anderson is Tim Probert in a 1971 Datsun 510 called Penny. The only one, I believe, in the field with actual front and rear chrome bumpers on the car. So this is our leader right there. Armin Gorbani jumps out to a lead, and that's fitting because he was our Toyo Tire 2.5 Challenge Championship winner last year in 2023. This is the second round of the Toyo Tire 2.5 Challenge. First round was at Thunder Hill as Armin goes over that curb a little bit ungently. Now we're on board with Tony Delane, BMW 2002. That's Brian O'Shaughnessy right ahead of him in another 2002 with the roundy taillights. Looks like Brian's rear end is a little loose there. On board with Brian O'Shaughnessy. Let's watch him with that wheel. He looks pretty smooth there in the carousel. So you can see just ahead of him is Tim Probert in the copper-colored 510, then David Anderson, then Luke Oxner, and then Armin Gorbani. Coming around turn 7. The BMW you see there in the mirror, Tony Delane, won last round's race at Thunder Hill. Well, you can see him really fighting the wheel there and squealing those Toyo tires. So they come around Mission Foods, turn 10. Let's go inside that 22 of Stephen Bristing. Beautiful car. He's following David Graziano in that throttle stop Datsun 510. Just a fantastically prepared, beautiful car. You got to see these cars up close because, yes, they are race cars, but they look like show cars. As we see there, the leader, Luke Oxner, going up the hill. Yeah, the leader, because Armin Gorbani has dropped back 4 or 5 places. Not sure what's happened to Armin, but that's Tony Delane right behind Armin. Armin is in that black 510. Looks like he's having some mechanical issues. Not sure what that is. He's trying to fight it back, but I just don't think he's got the speed, and that's causing a huge gap between Brian O'Shaughnessy and Tony Delane. Let's see what happens with Armin as we see Brian hangs out his left rear wheels. So there goes Armin Gorbani. Unfortunate for Armin Gorbani because he, like I said, last year's championship leader. So now there's our top three. Luke Oxner, David Anderson, Tim Probert. We ride on board with Tim Probert and Penny, the 1971 Datsun 510. Not only does he have the chrome bumpers, he's got the radio. See the radio still in the center of his dash? I love that. On board with David Anderson, currently second place, who Tim Probert is right behind. You can see David Anderson a little bit smoother on the wheel. Maybe a little bit better setup. As you see, looks like he's got John Morton's autograph there on this dash plate. That's pretty cool. Of course, John Morton, the legendary Trans Am Datsun 510 driver. Now this is turn 11. We were talking about this in some of the other races. If you've ever done this on a sim or in video games, a very difficult turn 11 and different lines you can take through there. There's definitely a fast line, but then there's also a defensive line as they come around the starter stand. Luke Oxner, David Anderson, Tim Probert, Brian O'Shaughnessy, Tony Delane. That's your top five. There's Penny. Getting a little bit wide there. Brian O'Shaughnessy getting very wide, four-wheel drift through Cube 3 turn as they come through the Bennett Bridge Hall section. Turn 3. You can see Tony Delane has already fought his way back up to Brian O'Shaughnessy after that huge gap with Armin in between them. Tony Delane from the Seattle area. Very good driver. Hasn't been doing this very long, but very fast as we ride on board with Tim Probert. Just right behind David Anderson. That's basically probably the longest straightaway at Sonoma, and there is a little bit of a left kink in that straightaway, but it's still flat out in almost every class. So there you see the gap between David Anderson, number 35, and Penny of Tim Probert. You can see there why they call it the Penny. We've had beautiful weather here all weekend as they come around Mission Foods turn 10. And some great crowds. Really cool to have the Toyo Tire B Sedan Challenge here with us with this SVRA and the Sonoma Speed Tour with the Trans Am Western Championship. But you can see there a little bit of a late brake lockup from the 35 of David Anderson. Just slightly. Nothing that's going to hurt the Toyo tires, but just showing Tim Probert he's not super comfortable going around that turn as they come up the hill to Cube 3 turn. Lots of shifting and downshifting on this circuit. Brand new pavement, only about 5 or 6 weeks old. So a lot of the drivers, if this is their home track, the track has changed for everybody, equaling it out to anybody just about. And there is that beautiful 22. Stephen Bristing, 1972. Right behind him is Phil Hartstein, another Datsun 510. So now we ride on board with Steve. You can see his hydraulic master cylinders there on the dashboard. And it looks like Tony Delane getting right behind Brian O'Shaughnessy. Brian O'Shaughnessy's setup just seems a little bit loose compared to Tony. Looks like Tony has the right setup, but just marginally. So it's now going to be up to Tony to try to get around him, which is very tough when these cars are so equally yoked. I believe that's Ryle Barnett's BMW, the old BMW that Brian O'Shaughnessy is in. A beautiful car. I think they even made Hot Wheels after that car. Tony's looking a little bit more relaxed behind the wheel of the car. where Brian looks like he's having to fight it just a little bit more. Now, see there, we were talking about the different setups. So Brian took the defensive line. Tony took the late apex line to try to get a good runoff, which you're seeing now. And now Brian has the advantage there at 12 and just not giving him enough room to get around, because, yeah, that front straight really isn't a straight. You want to arc that thing, and really you're not straightening the wheel anywhere on that front straight. And this seems to be the fight, the BMW fight of those beautiful 2002s with the roundies. Love the roundy taillight 2002s. Both red, white, and blue, but even though they're having this intense battle, see Tony there going off just above the curb at turn 4, just trying to rattle Brian O'Shaughnessy, but it's just not happening. And then you can see having to really get on the brakes there, how much that costs Brian dearly. Oh, now we're on board with one of my favorite cars in this group, Glenn Shue. That number 37, the orange 68 Datsun 510. Glenn Shue being passed there by the number 8. Now that number 8, Gabriel Rothman, had a spin, I'm hearing from race control, at turn 2. Not a spin, but 4 wheels off, so he's catching up through the back of the pack. But Glenn Shue always has really well-prepared cars. He has a Z that he races with us, and then also this Datsun 510, but you got to see these cars up close. So we have cameras in other cars, but this fight up here for the front is just too much fun not to go to as they go around Mission Foods turn 10, 4-wheel drift as Tony Delane there in the rearview mirror. We ride on board with Brian O'Shaughnessy as he goes all the way through his gears. Hard on the brakes, watch the steering input, and then he tries to get it back on the throttle as quickly as he can. So close to that wall, and that's a short wall right there to the left. And then you can see you go all the way over there to the right, and then you go back over to the left. You don't have any time to relax on that front straight. It's David Anderson there, second place with Tim Probert. On board with Tim Probert in the penny. You can see Luke Oxner is just ahead of them in that yellow 1971 Datsun 510. But this is the battle to watch. Look at how they're just throwing these cars around over the curbs. Tony looks on the inside of 4, locks him up. Gets 2 wheels off there. That's a scary place to go off there at turn 4. We have lots of spinners at turn 4 at Sonoma. And there's Glenn Shue's car again. Look at that beautiful car, that number 37. Glenn just always brings very well-prepared cars out to our events. Why wouldn't we show that? Goes off there, 2 left, into turn 4. Car sounds great. Look at that. We're going around the carousel 2 wide as we're back with 3rd place currently, Tim Probert. Right behind David Anderson going into turn 11. David Anderson taking the defensive line. This new surface is noticeably smoother and offers a lot more grip than we're used to. So a lot of the drivers have had to kind of almost get used to this circuit. But look at this, Tony Delane on the inside going into turn 3. Holds it back. Brian O'Shaughnessy's able to hold him back there, but you can see there it's got to be really frustrating. This is where it starts to get a little bit dangerous and dicey. When the car that's desperately trying to pass is noticeably faster, but just can't get around. Sometimes they make moves that they probably shouldn't make. Tony Delane just trying to get in the mirrors, trying to rattle Brian O'Shaughnessy. Now he's trying to take the late apex as Tony, try to get a good run. Just nothing doing. Brian is running a great defensive line to keep Tony behind him. You can hear those tires just fighting for grip as we go back up to Tim Probert, currently in third, but he can see first place right ahead of him in that yellow Datsun of Luke Oxner. Oh, there's the white flag, ladies and gentlemen. Last lap, last chance. There is our leader, Luke Oxner, in the 99 Alpha, coming around the Cube 3 turn. And then here is the battle for 4th and 5th place. So it's Luke Oxner, David Anderson, Tim Probert, Brian O'Shaughnessy, and Tony Delane on board with Brian O'Shaughnessy, who's currently in 4th. The last chance to do it. He's getting pretty loose there, going, drops 2 left wheels. It should give Tony Delane a pretty good run up to the carousel. But really the last good passing places is turn 7 and turn 11. Let's see what can happen here as they come around that carousel, just fighting for grip downhill. Looks like Tony's got a good run, and look at that, he goes off there. Brian O'Shaughnessy puts 2 right off. Tony Delane's got the pass. Can he keep it? Tony Delane goes deep into 7, giving Brian O'Shaughnessy the corner, and Brian O'Shaughnessy's got to be thinking, oh, Shaughnessy, I thought I lost the race, but he's got it right back there with Tony Delane, and boy, are these 2 gentlemen having a great race, and they're not giving anybody anything. Look at that. So now we're back on board Tim Probert, currently in 3rd place. Here we go. Can he make anything stick? I don't think so. I think David Anderson has this thing locked up. As we see now the Alpha getting in between there. As they come up to the checkered flag, 1 turn left. I don't think Tim Probert has it. So it looks like it's Luke Oxner takes the checkered flag. Then Gerald Schieferle a lap down. Then David Anderson second, Tim Probert. Look at that. Oh, man. Brian O'Shaughnessy barely takes it by like 1/10 of a second over Tony Delane. Then we've got John Murray, Kelly McCarty, and Steve Walker in that beautiful blue and white BMW. Look at this, though. What's happening here? Oh, man. It's close ever. Armin Gorbani, David Graziano, Steve Bristing, Phil Hartstein, Rick Sheldon, Kenny Say, Gabriel Rothman, oh man, another close one, Steve Link, Patrick Imge, and Glenn Chu in that group, and then Hans Gutman.